Okay, I think we're live, so we will wait for comments. We would wait for people to show that they can see us and hear us. So if you can see us or hear us anywhere, please leave a comment. Let us know where you're joining us from. Kind of takes a bit before the stream kicks off. I'm trying to wait. I'm waiting for notifications on my phone as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I got notification on LinkedIn. If you can see us or hear us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know that you can see us. I believe we're live now. Hi. Okay, thank you. I can't see your name, but I see someone from Toronto just said, hi, I can see and hear you. Hi, Eno and Henry. Hi, Ayokunle. How are you doing? Awesome. So today we're going to be speaking about starting a career in IT. And I have Henry here. So Henry's going to be sharing a lot with us regards to, the IT career and how to get into IT, especially with, COVID that has happened. So post-COVID, how to get into IT. All right, awesome. So let's start. So Henry, I'd like you to introduce yourself to us. I did a bit of intro with my post yesterday, but I'd like you to also, introduce yourself to, everyone listening.
Okay, so my name is Henry Fimibama, and I got started in IT in 2003. In 2003, I still was in school, but I had interest enough to just get started. I schooled in Nigeria, and if anyone knows a bit about the educational sector, back home, 2003 was a year when we had one of those, federal government ASU strike things, where they tussle and then the students, get to suffer. So I had, I think, an 8-month gap. And one of the things I did in utilizing that gap was to get registered in NIIT, which at the time pioneered in Port Harcourt. So I ended up being one of the pioneers of NIIT. And originally, I went in there to do web design because, back then it was the cool thing. The internet just got started in Nigeria. You go online and you see, vibrant, beautiful websites. So I was, okay, I think I should be able to do something like this. Anyway, I got started in IT then from wanting to do web design and got introduced to programming in NIT as the one of the courses that was available. I did it, and it turns out I did pretty well at the time, and that's how it started for me. I went on to finish in 2007 and started a career in software development, and it has evolved. So I'm ready to tell the story of how IT as a field is so vast. It's huge. You understand? And for those that generally come with the mindset of, oh, this is scary, I don't know how to get in, or it's too technical, I don't know how I fit in. I guess I'm here today to sort of demystify some of those beliefs. So yeah, I did a bit of software development. I evolved into getting into HR, human resources. As HR has also evolved, each HR division or unit now needs an information systems department. So I was one of those guys that would crunch their data and let the data tell stories, which was useful to senior management in those organizations. It led to a fruitful 8 years in that field. And I also moved on to doing some, system analyst work, and currently I'm consulting.
All right.
So that's a bit of.
Awesome. So you said your journey into IT, started with NIT. I'm like, oh wow, NIT. I still remember when they used to have those courses, and then there came Ag Tech as well. And I think this institutes were kind of like the forerunners with driving the passion for technology and learning, the basic web design skills and then coding skills. All right, so let's go into your your education. How has your education helped you to grow your career in IT? How has the education you've gotten so far
Okay.
helped you?
Well, you're right.
Can you hear me, Henry?
Okay, so back then in secondary school, in high school, as some of you would know, it was either you're an art student or you're a science student. And it turns out I was a science student, and one of the things I found myself to be good at was, chemistry, industrial chemistry, physics, and also technical drawing, which meant I could have been an architect if I wanted to. However, with what I've learned thus far, I now know that you can go into any field absolutely that you want to get into. I will share some examples of that later on this session. But being a science student really helped me, in terms of my background then in math, and all of that. However, I've had friends that were not from those backgrounds too, that just had that interest and commitment, really, which is what is needed. And I would say to an okay degree, your background, back then probably helps. But with the adults that we are having evolved, from high school to university and have grown into life, you really don't need any of those things. You just need sheer persistence, you need commitment, and some other things I'll mention, which are factors, that will help anyone looking to switch into the IT career. For example, you need a mentor, and one of the places I found the mentor was in NIT. And I went in there knowing absolutely nothing. I went in there only knowing how to type in MS Word. But I got in there, and with the with the persistence, I got into programming. We started with what was called PLT at the time, 17 years ago, programming logic and techniques. So that's where for every problem you have, you draw a flow chart to solve, the problem. And funny enough, I used the flow chart yesterday to solve a problem at work,
I love
while
that.
consulting.
Yeah.
I needed to write up a procedure, and for the life of me, I tried doing it without writing anything, But when I went back to basics and drew a small flow chart, I was able to solve it. So some of these problem learning skills, by the time you have mentors, they'll teach those things to you. And where do you find mentors? Everywhere in your everyday environment.
Yeah.
Today, this platform we are using, one of them, LinkedIn, has a mentoring program. You can find people there. So
Yeah.
while I'll say, while I'll say your education, sets you up for some, sort of success, it doesn't really matter because the factors we'll discuss today will tell why. So that's as far as
Okay, awesome. So let's go into now. So you're saying, okay, your education kind of played a role, but you're saying right now, you don't need to have been a science student to actually, grow in a career in IT. So let's talk about, what's required right now from your experience and what you know, for someone who didn't study anything science related. How can they start a career in IT? What are those factors that they need to have in place?
Okay, so I like to put things in perspectives by putting them in either bullet points or in numbers. And one of the first things I would like for us to discuss is the why. So it's a no-brainer, right? Because that's why we're all here. Why? Why that switch?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to run a channel now, that goes into giving back. Currently, I find myself in Canada, and I know a lot of folks, are willing to also make that move. So, in giving back, I addressed the job market in Canada post COVID-19, and I'm pretty sure this would apply to any other country or markets as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things is the why. The
Mm,
why is already answered. COVID happened,
mm,
and in March, even the news of COVID, how it limited contact and all of those things, a lot of industries suffered. And you
yeah.
find that those industries are the same all over the world. So the hospitality industry,
Mm,
restaurants have been hard hit. Only fast food, people are making a slight comeback because they can make those foods and then send them out, to deliver. But it's been a struggle. The airline industry is one of the hardest hit, as we all know. No
yeah.
one is traveling. In the attempt to open international borders, we see a spike, and then they've been shut down again. And a typical example is the Canadian and the US border. So the why is very clear. The why is the COVID has hit, and conventional jobs as we know them no longer exist, for in a lot of fields. The oil and gas industry was hit as well, because if planes aren't flying, if people are sat at home, who uses these oil related products? So, a lot of people have had the foresight, especially people in the oil and gas industry, where I was, I did mention I did as an HRIS analyst, and it was in the oil and gas industry. And a lot of us, had this foresight that the oil and gas industry is not as it used to be. So
Yeah.
there will be this need to make a switch. I happen to be in the IT field, working also in the oil and gas field. So that switch may not be applicable to me. However, I'm also learning new things that have nothing to do with IT, other than the fact that I'll be using a computer or a laptop, which are IT tools to work. So,
Yeah.
what does that tell anyone? That regardless of the industry you find yourself in, you have some computing to do. So the why is very clear. The world has changed. Even after this whole thing passes away, the world would remain changed.
Yeah.
If you used to sit, um, if you used to sit, in a restaurant before, and the sitting configuration could allow for 15 people sitting in there. Post COVID, you would expect maybe only 7 people to cater to
Mm,
social distancing. So that's how it has affected the industry, like hospitality industry. Airbnb too was hard hit.
yeah.
Hotels are hard hit. It's no wonder, cities like Dubai are doing a lot to, get that share of the market back. So the why is very clear, and it's because the world has changed. So IT is one of the things that cuts across every field. You can do data entry in the oil and gas field. You can do data entry, elsewhere. For you, you have one of the best stories, which I hope to capture in our in our meeting this week. Because your story is so unique that you came from a financial background, and you yourself, you've made that switch.
Yeah.
So I have a question probably I'll ask you before the end of this session, just so that users would hear, a candid story from you, because that won't be applicable to me since I'm already in this field. So one,
Yeah.
that's the why,
Okay.
which
So
is my
that's
number
why.
one tip. Yeah.
Okay. So the why. Why do you want to make the switch? Why is the switch necessary? Yeah, the why is always key in everything that we do. We should ask the why first. I believe in asking questions. When you ask questions, you get better answers, right? So the why. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about IT in itself. So when people say, "Oh, I want to move into IT, I want to switch to IT," I'm like, "What exactly in IT? IT is so broad, right?" So let's talk about IT in itself. Most people think that everybody in IT writes code. Everybody in IT is, with the black screen. Everybody in IT, is, with the net is, in the data centers with the network cables and LAN and WAN cables and all that stuff. Like, it's confusing for a lot of people. People believe IT means cybersecurity. People believe IT means software, right? So, but IT is really, really broad. So when you want to make that switch in your career into IT, it's best to have an understanding of, what area of IT really do I want to switch to. So let's talk about IT, in itself as an industry. what are the opportunities there, the different types of roles and jobs in IT. Just break it down for us, basically.
Okay, so I'll break it down this way, merging it into my second tip, which is if you've decided to take this mission on or this quest, the next thing you want to look at is the easiest path to IT.
Okay.
Right now, when we look at what's on ground, because we are in the period of the pandemic, what comes to mind for me, are support jobs. So, you know how we have the divide back home where someone is a university graduate and the other one is a polytechnic graduate, and it so happens that there's this huge divide.
Yeah.
That's the way it is like in IT when someone is an IT support staff, and then you hear of people that are probably software developers, and whatnot. So right now, support is one of the biggest things you can do in IT, and they do need a lot of support people that are knowledgeable. In my latest video on the job market post-COVID, I did look at a company called Concentrics. People in Alberta, people in the Canada area probably saw this company reach out to a lot of people because they are maximizing opportunities that are bound now with people staying at home. So a lot of stay-at-home jobs are available, and those have to do with supporting some people somewhere else. They have all of the tools available. So if you got one of those jobs, probably you had a laptop sent to you. You probably have maybe a 3-day to a week training to get you set up, to start contributing to the company and whatnot. So for me, without a steep learning curve, this is one of the things I would advise someone to look into. If you can get into IT support, so you don't have to spend all of the long time trying to learn new things, and whatnot. The gap from whatever you're surely used to won't be that much. So let's say you're working in the hospitality industry, for example. That's some sort of support. You don't need a 3-month IT training, to really get into it as such. So long as you've been doing something in the past, you're used to working, you shouldn't have, the bar should be low. However, you should be able to take care of those things that are vital to you. So this period of pandemic wouldn't hit you as hard as it's hitting others. So that's one thing I want to mention. Find out the path you want to take into getting into this IT. You want to get into IT support, and then you get into, from IT support, you get to use tools, right? You start to learn that those tools are ERP tools, enterprise resource planning tools that help the organization to become better, to keep track of things and all of that. So you find out that from one stage to IT, as you get exposed to some of these tools, you move on and you start to become a professional.
Okay, so are you saying like everyone should start with IT support first to get into IT in itself? What if I'm kind of more concerned with something like cybersecurity, or I'm kind of interested in data analytics, or I'm interested in cloud? I don't have any technical knowledge. I didn't study science, computer science. Can I move into all these other areas in IT? Is that possible? Or do I have to go and start as IT support before I can move into cloud or data analysis, or IT project
Sorry,
management?
I didn't get the question. What if you're interested in something less?
Something like cybersecurity or data analytics or cloud, right? Or IT project management. Must I go and start from IT support to get into IT, right? I already have a lot, like 10 years of experience. Say, for example, I had someone message me and say,
Okay.
10 years experience in audit, right? I've been in audit for a long time. Or, I have, 5 years experience in HR. So do I have to go and start from IT support? What would you advise? Right?
Okay, so to answer that, you don't necessarily need, yeah, I got the question. So to answer that, you don't necessarily need to do IT support as somewhere where you start from, right? What you have to do is to do the self-reflection and ask yourself, what are the skill gaps? Okay, if you go on job sites like Indeed and Monster.ca, if you
Yeah.
look for jobs that you're interested in, I bet you see the job description of those things. For 90% of data roles you see, it's no wonder Microsoft Excel is one of the requirements. 7 or 8 weeks ago on Twitter, Excel trended, and the basic story was in any knowledge you're getting, get Excel if you're moving into the IT field.
Mm.
And Excel is simple. It can be daunting if you open Excel for the first time and you see all of those grid lines. So I can tell you for sure that one of the things you need to know as a data scientist or an aspiring one should be to, be able to manipulate data in Excel. However, when you identify those skill gaps, the way to do it is to open, let's say, 3 or 5 of those jobs, and then you compare them. You would start to see similarities. It's no wonder 5 of the job descriptions mention Excel. It's no
Yeah.
wonder 5 of those descriptions mention either Power BI or Tableau. These are tools created by Microsoft and Tableau that helps you analyze data and create dashboards, and other things to help give meaning to data.
Yeah.
So identify those gaps in your skill gaps. So you would say, okay, I know how to use a computer. I can do Microsoft Word, very well. For Excel, I can say I'm at a basic level. I'm not intermediate quite yet. And it brings me to one of the things I also want to mention. What has helped me massively in the last 3 to 4 years are MOOCs or MOOCs. So those stand for Massive Open Online Courses, and we all know them. We know the Coursera's, we know the Udemy's.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of the viewers here know up to 10 of them. Some of them you can get courses for free. Some of them you can actually pay for them and get something really solid from people that are renowned in their field. Guys that have been doing this for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
So those things helped me a lot. I can tell you that I almost learned Power BI exclusively from Udemy.
Wow.
My
Interesting.
Udemy account today has over 30 courses,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know for
How
Coursera, but yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, I got my ITIL 4 certification in November, and almost single-handedly, Jason Beyond's course,
Yeah.
from there was one of the things that,
Yeah.
yeah, you understand, and I passed it very well. So
I give you that. I think I give you that.
yeah, we spoke. You did. We spoke about it. In fact, I don't know if we'll have that time, but I really need to tell that story about how I got my first job here in Canada, and as well as ask you the question I've been wanting to ask about how you also made the switch from the finance world here.
Yeah.
However, in continuing this, those massive open online courses are, very wonderful. Check out Udemy, check out Coursera. Now we have Teachable. So just to let you know, as an IT person, I'm learning today to be a videographer, to be a cinematographer, and I've put the skills I've learned in the past 4 weeks into the YouTube videos I've released. And with the feedback I've gotten from folks like you and others, I can see how much progress I've made from the very first video I shot, to the next one. And I aim to improve and all of that. So I didn't really need to go to film school, or I didn't need to go to, some sort of boot camp, using those massive open online courses platforms, they've really helped. And that will be, recommended by me to get started, especially in the field you mentioned, data
Yeah.
science.
Yeah. So basically, are you saying right now we're in 2020? Anyone can make the switch to IT without having to go back to school to, take a degree in IT or software? Because I know a lot of people who are self-taught. And I'm also someone, I never went back to school, right? I mean, after my bachelor's in accounting, my postgraduates were management and leadership, basically strategic business management. So nothing IT related that I had to go back to school for. So I'm very much self-taught, and that also comes with some kind of personal qualities you need to have to achieve progress with that. But right now, can someone who never studied computer science, never studied sciences, can someone do this on their own? Right? Can you actually become self-taught and move into IT? Is that possible? I like your opinion on that.
Okay, so I was about to say you were asking a rhetorical question, but you're not asking yourself because you've done exactly the same thing. So
Yeah.
for the viewers out there, it's entirely possible.
Mm.
Sorry, what was that?
No, nothing. I think there's a lag.
So it's
Yeah.
entirely possible because I can tell you that from various platforms, from YouTube. Sorry, I didn't get that. You know.
I think there's a lag in the delivery when I say something. It takes a while.
Okay, okay. So I'll just wait for you to finish and give it a few seconds. Yeah, so like I said, that would have been exactly the same thing from a financial background, and you've been able to move into IT, although a branch of IT. So I would say business analysis is not rocket science. It's not programming. Not like programming too is rocket science, I would say. However, because of the connotations and because of how people view this subject and topics externally, it may seem to be like that, but it's not. So you don't have to go to a boot camp. For me, in learning how to edit, in learning how to use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit my footage, my video, I didn't have to go anywhere. You have the likes of Peter McKinnon on YouTube. You have channels like Potato Jet and others that you could just binge watch, and in 3 days or in the week, if you're really IT savvy, well, if you can handle your computer, you should be, you can get going. So you don't really need all of those things. Right now, in this day and age, all you need is the persistence. You need the right tools. And then it brings me to my fourth point. Point number four, you need to have a plan.
Okay.
Okay, you need to have a plan. Okay, I'm going into this field. I want to do data science. And trust me, it could sting. Back in 2003 in my Java class, then we didn't have IDEs. We didn't have the tools that enable rapid application development. We didn't have those things. So everything we needed to do, we typed it manually into Notepad, and it was scary. We started out that class as 25, and we ended up only three,
What?
of which only two people I know of really into it and wanted to go forward. But the third person, hats off to her, was someone that had that shared persistence to see the course through. So those are the attributes you need actually to start. When you do something like data science, you start to get into it. It may become frustrating at a point. Brings me back to point number two, where you need mentors. So you need people. And the funny thing about having mentors is if you've been a professional for even someone that finished their NYSC last year would have had a year's worth of experience. In your 1 year as a professional, you have people that you've worked with that could act as mentors. If you don't have a mentor in the IT industry, today I have Canada Worker where I really want to give back and I'm serious about it. Someone asked a question about the same topic, data science, and it was someone that was already in Alberta and he needed to know how much those guys earn. And I told him they can earn anywhere from 60,000 to 120. Now I did say 60 because they will look at your experience, right? If this is your first job into data entry, you have employers that are willing to give you a shot, looking at your background, looking at how you performed in the interview, how much you've learned, so far trying to get into the field. And
Yeah.
then on the other hand, if it's something you've been doing for a while, you could command as high as 120. So it ranges. So to answer your question once more, you actually don't need any sort of program. All you need is persistence. You need to learn. You need to have a plan, and then you need a mentor to guide you.
Yeah.
Preferably someone already in that field, of which you can get on platforms like LinkedIn. you can get on, your social media or anywhere you have interactions mostly. So, yeah, that's my take on your question.
Yeah, and I totally agree because the truth is anyone can do it, but it takes a bit of persistence and commitment. I mean, even when I was, moving into business analysis, and just like you said, you started at 25, and then you became three people in your class, right? In your IT class. And the truth is, even with something that is not as technical as business analysis is not as technical, although there are some techniques you have to learn that would definitely throw you off if it's something you're not used to. And of course, me coming from the finance background, it was very new, with data modeling and all that stuff, and process flows and all that stuff. And there are people, who dropped out, right? They said they can't do this, or they tried to attempt the exam and maybe they didn't pass, and they just said, this is not for me. And they basically just threw away that dream. I'm like, you know what, I'm going back to, my comfort zone, what I know how to do very well, and I'll just focus on that and get it done. Right. But it's definitely a different level of persistence. And that goes back to your first point, which is the why. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to switch your career in IT? Why do you want to be a BA or a PM? Why do you want to be a developer? Right. And when people reach out to me and ask me questions or say, oh, I see you're a business analysis coach, right? I want to get into business analysis. I see you, you've done business analysis for a while. I ask them why. And some people don't reply me because they think, oh, this lady is she's not serious. Why would she be asking me why? But the truth is, when I ask them why, I want to really know why they want to get into it. And because it all starts with your why, right? If you don't have a solid plan, like you said, and you don't really know why you want to do it, then why are you doing it? I mean, like some people want to get into IT because of they hear, IT guys are paid a lot. People in IT get paid for, they get paid six figures, 120, 150. I want to go into cybersecurity because cybersecurity analysts earn a lot. I want to be going to data science because I hear data scientists, earn a lot. But can you really put in the work, right? Because will you work for it? Because that's the truth. There's this level of commitment that is required. And when I ask people, how committed are you really to, immersing yourself into this? Because it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time, commitment. You know how it is to study for all these exams and certifications, and you have 3 AWS certifications which you achieved in less in a year, right? And it definitely takes away from you being all social and all that stuff because you're neck deep into these things. So when I ask people this and they're like, oh well, I want to earn the money, right? Is it just the money? Because I feel like it's way more than that. It's way more than coming into IT to earn money. So let's answer this question. Okay, what if I want to switch to IT because I want better pay? I know IT people, they get paid a lot. What's your advice to someone who just wants to make the switch because of money? Which is a good motive anyways, but are you there, Henry? I think your network is really slow.
Okay, so to answer your question, I would say this fits in nicely into the first thing we discussed, which is the why. And this is a question, that someone that's found a mentor willing to take them on. For example, imagine you mentoring Jack or Ngozi, for example, and Ngozi asks, okay, so um, how much do they pay in this field? And you tell them, okay, if you do well, you can earn this much and that. But you as the mentor now asks Ngozi, why do you want to come into this field? And then Ngozi is like, okay, I've done my research on pay scale, I've done my research on Glassdoor, and I can tell you that in the province of Alberta, they make this much money. But the truth is, coming in it just because of the money can work for you. In fact, money is a huge motivator for a lot of people. But being a huge motivator in itself is not really something that will guarantee you success in that field. If you get in there and you get stung, and you find out that this doesn't really appeal to you anymore, then you would have wasted some time into getting to it.
Yeah.
Now, point five, like the fifth thing I want people to consider your age and your lifestyle.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm under no assumption that I'm talking to only young people here because in your career, especially in this country we're in, I'm not just talking of Canada, elsewhere. In Canada here, you may not have like an age bar. I work with, 55-year-olds, 60-year-olds that are still, I don't want to make it sound anyway, I don't want to say still sound mentally because, the more you immerse yourself into your work, you're sharp. And I've seen people go as far as 70. We have Warren Buffett talking a lot of sense, making a lot of money, being one of the best, investors out there. And age isn't really a limitation. However, you need to consider your age and lifestyle. I say this for people that come from environments where, in fact, once you're 35, it's like a hopeless situation applying for that job. You know, I be Port Harcourt boy, Niger. I have to say it from where I'm from. Applying for certain type of jobs, your age can be very limiting, and it's no wonder you have a lot of people in that society have to probably say they're 40, when they're 45, for example. It's not something I'm proud of saying on a platform like this too, but consider your age and your lifestyle. If you know you're used to doing certain type of things and it wouldn't fit into, you trying to move into IT, consider that as well. So that you may have to say, are there lifestyle changes I can make? Or you have to look into research that goes like, okay, at my age, what are the best IT jobs that I'll be able to do comfortably and still manage a wife, still manage kids, or a husband, and manage a side business, or whatever applies, to you. So that's something that you need to watch out for, and not just be concerned only about the money that's in it. Because if you go by the money, the typical Google search would be highest paying jobs in IT, and then you start to see uh, cloud computing developer associate. Yeah, you must have 10 years of this, 5 years of this, and I'll tell you within 5 minutes, your desire to switch into IT will die there and then you call it quits. So while money can be a motivator, look at it long term that, okay, if we have a similar occurrence like COVID, we hope not, in 5 years' time, what jobs will still be available? Like I said earlier, you still have your support jobs, you still have, a lot of IT jobs that require you to work remotely. Where I used to work back then, back home, we always used to talk about flexi working hours, but there was this internal joke that it's something that only came up in specific meetings, but was never actualized.
Yeah.
However, COVID has happened, and a lot of organizations have shifted to
Yeah.
working from home. And I've been wishing I was a stakeholder in the Zoom application because Zoom has blown massively.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I have software developer friends, that are now looking to build similar tools like Zoom.
There's been a
It's
lot.
worth picking the brain of, the owner of that tool to ask, what were you thinking of, back then? And then you see companies like Microsoft that may be somewhat restrictive with their Skype for business and their Microsoft Teams. They have to let go. They have to let go and be more open so
Yeah.
that they can face the market. I remember back then when we had the Apple iPod and then Microsoft came out with Zoom, the Zoom player and everything. You can see how not going into the market early and taking things into consideration maybe. So the points I've raised here are, while money is a good motivator, you need to look at other things as well. Look at your age, look at your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And based on the next question you asked me, we have roughly 18 minutes. I would love to talk about another important factor, which is networking.
Yeah. All right. So what's the role of networking in switching to a career in IT? People talk about networking a lot. How can networking help you to switch into a career in IT, especially post COVID right now?
Okay. So again, I like to use examples from where I'm from, and it's called man no man. Over
Yeah.
here is networking, and networking like it worked for me. So here's what happened in my own scenario. Before leaving Lagos for Canada, one of the things I did, which was great, was to change the location of my LinkedIn from Lagos to Calgary. Now, I did that on advice I got online in trying to build my network.
Yeah.
And then what happened within a couple of days was I had friend requests, requesting to connect. And one of them happened to be you, Eno. The other one was, I think, Charles Osuji, the lawyer in Calgary here. And I made those connections. Within 2 weeks of getting into Calgary, I found myself in one of the WhatsApp groups. And then I saw Eno Eka again. So um, all of those things transferred to the relationships I made, with all of the things we shared in those groups. So besides networking, another thing is you have to stay positive and don't be a loner. So now we have COVID. Some people are far away from home, far away from families. You need to keep in touch with people. If you're, a recluse, you need to know how to, yeah, you need to train yourself to know how to keep in touch, to reach out to people and all that. What happened to me was I had a mindset of coming here to avoid certain things I didn't want to keep doing that I used to do, back home.
Yeah.
But what I did find out was that I met very lovely people on the group, you know. I had a video last time on my channel with Bamidele. I didn't know Bamidele before. Bamidele came from Dubai. I came from Lagos. We became very good friends. We've done a lot of things together. We share a lot of ideas, kind of like you and I do. And what happened was because I networked and now belong to this community, I actually belong to two WhatsApp groups. A full WhatsApp group has 257 members. So imagine having double of that as your network. So
Yeah.
one of those days I came across a job, a posting you made that your company was hiring and that, you know, we are free to hire whoever is interested and we're free to also use you as a referee. And having been in Canada at the time for 2 months and haven't made any headway, one of the reasons being I came at the worst possible time. I came in December when companies are really shut down for like the end of year activities and whatnot. And then January when they were just coming back trying to regroup for recruitment. So anyway, that wasn't to say other people didn't get jobs. Some people did, but I found that period to be really, really humbling. And I did follow up. I was like, I've never heard of this company before. Of course, I was looking out for the Microsofts, I was looking out for the Amazons, I was
Typical
looking out, you
immigrant.
understand?
Typical immigrant
Having bagged
mentality.
two AWS certifications from Lagos before I came, you know, I I set my sights really high. Sorry?
I said that's typical immigrant mindsets, right?
So I set my sights really high, but I'll tell you, working for the company I did and in different fields that I've ever worked. Sorry, immigrants what?
Mindset. Immigrant mindset.
So yeah, new immigrant mindset. You're right. Yeah. So again, I'm not assuming I'm speaking to only immigrants. Yeah, I assume I'm speaking to everyone. For me, one of the things I later had to learn was that I needed to unlearn all the things I thought I knew. I needed to shed some Niger mentality. I needed to shed that. I'm in a society that is egalitarian. I'm in a cosmopolitan city and I had to do things differently. I had to observe my environment and I had to adapt real quickly. When it dawned on me after my second and third month that if things don't change, then, it wouldn't change for me. So, fair enough, that job interview I later had from your post was actually the first one I got because all other ones I got the feedback email that said, oh, your resume looks good. I can see you have a ton of experience. However, we need someone with experience already in the country. And you know the thing about getting into a new field or even into a new country, everybody wants experience, but to get experience, you actually need a job, right?
Exactly.
So I found myself, it was a catch-22 situation for me, and it turned out that I moved into a new field, which was fintech, and I learned a lot of new things. I learned about banks, I learned about credit unions, but it didn't matter the field I was into because I was still able to use IT skills that I'd gathered for the past 17 years and put it to good use.
Yeah.
So that's something. Networking is really, really huge. So that's my networking story. The second one was, the consultancy job I'm doing currently. It was also as a means of networking. I feel if I were to give a number off the top of my head, 80 to 90% of jobs you get these days are because someone either referred you to a job posting or you belong to a group where those things were posted. Oftentimes, you do get the odd one where you go out looking for a job and then you stumble on a LinkedIn uh, job posting or one from Indeed, or a recruiter reaches out to you. So networking is huge and should never be underestimated. Have a community you belong to. Don't be one of those people like me who said, "Oh, when I come here, I'll stay away from X, Y, or Z." There are limitations to what you can choose to do. You can choose to not be a part of certain things, but I would advise that you belong to a community. Really,
Yeah.
really important. I have over 8 WhatsApp groups, I belong to. The guys from my IT WhatsApp group, I have an IT WhatsApp group in Calgary, and those guys give me candid, I wouldn't say brutal, candid but honest feedback about the first video I made, and I really needed to know how to improve. And some of the tips from them, helped me do something better. So, one, thinking about getting a mentor, get a plan, network, ask yourself why are you getting into this? And all of the tips we've mentioned, all of these things, when brought together holistically, would guide you towards where you should really go. Or if you don't have so much time to think about this stuff, I'll tell you, in all your learning, learn Excel. I'm not saying go do a boot camp or a crash course, to do a learn Excel in 3-day course or whatever, but learn Excel. Look for data support roles. If you are strapped for cash now and you just need to ensure you still pay your bills, from those data roles, by the time your true self shines, you can move on to something bigger. I hate that I'm saying something bigger because it makes those IT support roles look small, but they are not, in terms of what you do. You understand? So I know the viewers get what I'm saying anyway, but if you're strapped for cash, there are jobs that you can do right now. You can go into data entry. From data entry, they have tools that do those things. You can become experts in them. During this pandemic, I've learned how to edit videos, how to shoot with my camera, to shoot cinematic scenes, to shoot interview scenes, which you can learn from sites like Teachable. Teachable is another MOOC platform. So if you're here and this type of thing appeals to you to want to be a content creator, hop on to teachable.com. You see those courses for as little as 5,000 naira, for as little as 30 Canadian dollars. You can buy a course and it has everything from start to finish. How you can start taking footage, learning about your camera, learning different angles, learning how to edit, learning sound design. Well, I'm trying to
Yeah.
recall some of the things I've done, but you get what I'm trying to say. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So all of these things are really important. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I really love that, you've hit on, some succinct points, which is first of all, your why, what's your why? Why do you want to get into this? The free online courses, the MOOCs, like you call them, right? Use online sources, Udemy, Coursera, YouTube is free. I learned a lot on YouTube in my early days in business analysis because there's a lot of new concepts and terms that I didn't understand. So what I do is, if I find a concept that I didn't understand, I go on YouTube. There's always someone that's done a video on it, that would really break it down and explain it to me. And then blogs as well. A lot of people blog about things they're learning. So when you Google it, blogs also come up as well as YouTube. And you read from people's perspectives,
Right.
gain understanding, and then get a mentor, right? So, find someone who's going to mentor and coach you. And like you said, you can find someone on LinkedIn or, in your community. And then, like you said, become a member of a community, join communities, network with people. Networking is another key thing that you talked about that could really help you. So, quickly before we round up, what are some emerging roles in IT? Right. So you talked about, using how to get data entry, data support, IT support roles to get into IT. But what are some emerging roles in IT, right? That people can look at, post COVID. They can take advantage of those emerging roles that are sort of untapped, and there's still that high demand, and there will be a higher demand, post COVID, in the next few years. What are, from your understanding and your knowledge, what are some emerging roles that you would advise people to, start looking into?
Oh, so this one is very easy. Um, ITSM,
Okay.
IT service management. Right now, I don't know any serious organization that runs itself without having ITSM in place. Because if you are an organization that caters to people, if you're service oriented, there'll be no way, you won't be having times when your customers come to you to complain, your customers reach out to you to ask questions. Those things are done by tickets, a ticketing system, whatever I want to call it, there's service now. And that brings me to service now. I don't know if it's still free, but I didn't know that they opened up themselves, for people to get free training and do certifications to make that ecosystem ways to get yourself, started, or to look at yourself as a professional is to get ITIL certified. I cannot say that enough. Get ITIL certified. It really helps. In fact, 3 days before taking my ITIL certification, I did like a boot camp. And in those 3 days, I understood better than I had done ever before of why ITSM is important. And like you mentioned, it's emerging.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of companies now have those setups where they provide the tools to people to be able to work from home. You and I we're in the same company, we're in the same industry, and we saw how flexible it was that
Yeah.
we could do our jobs, sometimes from home. And it was an organization that was big on ITSM, not just where we were, but a lot of organizations.
Okay.
So brings me to two more points. Do certifications. Do certifications. And if you're looking for where to get started, start with ITIL. You
Yeah.
can start doing ITIL, and on the side, you're also doing Microsoft Excel, And then, if you're not really in a hurry to get into that support role or to get into, any of those ITSM fields, then I think the most important advice of all is ensure that you volunteer,
Volunteering.
because volunteering opens you up to validating yourself. Sometimes you do get that imposter syndrome, when we are trying to move into a field.
Yeah.
I can tell you it's happened for me
Mm.
a couple of times. When I was learning about the cloud, I'm still learning, because that's one huge field. I still haven't done a traditional cloud job. However, I've done very well with my portfolio in building static websites, using services like Amazon S3 from AWS, at least to showcase that I've done something like this, to build a virtual, what they call it, the virtual call center,
Yeah.
so you don't have to do it. Press one for this, press two for that. The virtual call center I built actually uses your voice, and it strips your voice down and analyzes it and gets it as commands, which it uses to process to whoever would handle those calls. So I've done those things and added to my portfolio, so that if and when I'm open to those cloud rules, in AWS, I should be able to say, okay, take a look at the things I've done and validate myself. So volunteering is really, really, really important. That way you don't start to doubt yourself to say, okay, I've learned ITIL, but am I sure I can do an ITSM? So one way to do that is you could volunteer for 2 weeks, for a month, as applicable and as you're allowed to. And when you get into it, you find out that you become, seamless, in the role. And then from there, you gain confidence into into the new field you're in. And with that confidence, it propels you into getting something much more appropriate. So I hadn't mentioned it in the past, but volunteering is huge. And don't be hard on yourself. Don't develop imposter syndrome and quit, just because you don't feel like you've had 10 years or 17 years experience, like me. You can always start. You don't need to go to a boot camp. Do your MOOC courses. Sorry, I'm trying to paraphrase everything that we've done. I'm trying to do a recap. Ask yourself the why, why you're getting into the field. Get yourself a mentor, and all of those things. And I also want to use this point to say, on my channel, Canada Waka, I'll be doing a video of this same topic, actually, how you can switch into IT. And we'll be doing a sort of role reversal here, because you'll be my guest on and then I'll have to ask the tough questions. So, guys, if you're on YouTube, please search for Canada Waka, like the videos and subscribe. And then more of this content we'll be able to share on there. And then we'll learn along, just the same way I'm learning.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, it's been awesome having you here, Henry. Thank you so much. You've shared some really valuable tips with regards to knowing your why, getting mentors, networking, joining a community, learning, using online services, and free courses, Udemy, YouTube,
Pleasure being here.
Coursera, and all these free things, and basically just being a self-starter and being committed and persistent with what you're doing. Some other things you also mentioned, which are, getting the right certifications. So if there's certifications required in that role, get those certifications, and then volunteer, right? Start volunteering, even in your current organization. Let them know, oh, I just took a course, on, ITSM or ITIL, or, on support or on data analytics. I'd like to take on some more tasks to actually prove myself, and volunteer on projects in your organization or outside the organization. That's a way to validate yourself and, kind of beat that imposter syndrome that you're having with regards to confidence. Okay, awesome. On that note, I'd like to say thank you so much for, for joining us, Henry, and, sharing your thoughts with regards to, starting a career in IT for people who are non-techie and, techie as well. I'd like to say thanks to Ayakunle, Wumi, Roland, and, for your comments. I appreciate that. So on that note, we'll say bye. I definitely will be seeing you guys tomorrow again in another session. Please send your thanks in the comments when you see it. And, thank Henry for coming to share his time with us. Really, really appreciate it. So on that note, we'll say bye and have a wonderful evening ahead. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.